Delta Force earned its SAS nickname and selection from the British, but gave back something the SAS never saw coming: an obsession with live-fire repetition so relentless, American operators now shoot 100,000 rounds a year, 5 times the British volume. The result is not just speed or accuracy, it is a level of neural automation that British mentors now study for clues. How did an American budget, starting in 1977, unlock a single skill set that even the world's best now chase? That story began before the first shot was ever fired. In 1977, an American colonel named Charlie Beckwith returned from his time with the British SAS, carrying more than just admiration for their methods. He brought back a blueprint. Beckwith had seen firsthand how the SAS selected and shaped men for missions that demanded absolute precision under pressure. What struck him most was not only the rigor of selection, it was the potential for what could be achieved if that process met American resources. At Fort Bragg, Beckwith did not just copy the SAS model. He scaled it up. He insisted on a compound where training never stopped, where ranges stayed open around the clock, and where every operator could run live fire drills at any hour. The original Delta Force compound took shape as a place where the lights rarely dimmed and the sound of gunfire was as constant as the North Carolina humidity. The goal was simple: to create a unit that could out-train, outshoot, and outlast any adversary by removing every possible barrier to practice. This was a relentless approach to training. The SAS had the blueprint, but Delta had the fuel, the budget, and the space to turn repetition into routine and routine into reflex. Early members remember Beckwith's demand for relentless drills, not just to test skill, but to build a rhythm where shooting and moving became second nature. The foundation Beckwith laid was not just about copying the best, it was about giving his men the freedom to pursue mastery without limits. That decision set Delta Force on a path that would soon diverge from its British roots, powered by a relentless training culture only possible in America. Every calculation begins with a single round. For Delta Force, that arithmetic scales with a force few militaries can match. Each operator cycles through 2,000 to 3,000 live rounds every week during standard training periods. Over the course of a year, that means a single Delta shooter will send between 100,000 and 150,000 rounds downrange, rifle, pistol, and shotgun combined. Multiply that by 10 years in the unit, and the total rises above 1 million rounds fired in training alone. The numbers are not abstract. They are tracked, counted, and replenished as part of the daily rhythm at Fort Bragg. Ammunition is not rationed. It is expected to be used. Operators are encouraged to burn through boxes of cartridges, not to prove a point, but to hardwire every movement and response through sheer repetition. The budget for this volume is classified, but defense analysts estimate that Delta's annual ammunition expenditure outstrips the entire small arms budget of several NATO partners. On the other side of the Atlantic, the SAS trains with intensity, but within limits. Former British operators have estimated their annual round count at roughly 20 to 30% of what their American counterparts fire. Where a Delta operator might fire 120,000 rounds in 12 months, a SAS trooper may fire closer to 30,000. Over a 10-year career, that gap widens into a gulf. Delta shooters may log more than 1 million rounds, while SAS shooters accumulate a fraction of that total. The ratio is simple. For every 4 rounds Delta fires, the SAS fires just 1. That difference is not just a matter of national budget lines. It is the engine behind a measurable gap in speed, accuracy, and consistency. The arithmetic of advantage is written in brass and gunpowder, and it sets the stage for a culture where shooting is not an event, but a daily expectation. The compound at Fort Bragg runs on a schedule that never really ends. Operators wake before dawn, grab their gear, and head straight to the ranges. By 7 in the morning, the first live fire drills are already underway. The air smells like cordite and oil, and the sound of gunfire rolls across the training grounds in steady waves. The rhythm is never casual. Throughout the day, teams rotate between different facilities, each one designed for a specific kind of fight. There is a mock embassy, a replica of an aircraft fuselage, a suburban house with paper-thin walls, and a maze of rooms that change configuration at a moment's notice. Every scenario is built to force new decisions. 1 hour, operators might clear a 2-story home with a hostage hidden behind a kitchen counter. The next, they are storming a narrow hallway lined with moving targets and strobe lights. The tempo does not let up. According to former Delta operator George Hand, it is not unusual for a team to run 30 to 40 live fire room clearances in a single day. Each run is timed, scored, and broken down in detail. Mistakes mean another repetition. Success just means the bar moves higher. The pace is relentless. Ammunition is stacked in crates, ready to be loaded and spent. Range staff reset targets and sweep brass as fast as the shooters can fire. There is no waiting for a slot, no rationing of rounds. If a drill needs to be run again, it is run again immediately. The infrastructure matches the ambition. Multiple kill houses operate at once so every squad can train without delay. Some structures are modular, their walls and doors shifted between sessions to prevent operators from memorizing layouts. Others are permanent fixtures, built to mimic real-world targets down to the smallest detail. The goal is to make every repetition count, and also to make every repetition different. The daily rhythm is set. Morning on the range, afternoon in the kill house, and often dry fire practice at night. The volume of live fire clearances is more than a number. It is a system built to erase hesitation and burn correct movement into muscle memory. Operators run through so many scenarios that, as George Hand puts it, they begin to see the room before entering. The repetition is not just physical, it is neurological. Patterns emerge, and responses become automatic. By the end of a training cycle, the average operator has cleared more rooms in a month than most conventional soldiers will in a year. The sheer throughput, the number of scenarios, the speed of reset, and the constant access to facilities creates a kind of industrial rhythm. It is not about flash or bravado. It is about making the extraordinary feel routine. The compound never really sleeps, and neither does the pursuit of mastery. A single operator stands in a concrete kill house, weapon up, eyes fixed on a battered door. The timer starts. The door swings open. In less than 5 seconds, 7 targets drop, each one struck in the head, each transition as smooth as a metronome. There is no wasted movement. Not a single glance lingers on a threat already neutralized. The sequence unfolds like muscle memory, not conscious thought, a kind of precision. Slow the footage down, and the details surface. The operator's feet land in exactly the same place on every run. The weapon tracks from target to target in a straight line, never overshooting. The hands reload without hesitation, the eyes never lose focus. Every action is the product of thousands of repetitions, each one chiseling away uncertainty until only the essentials remain. The entire drill, from breach to final shot, takes less time than it takes most people to read the sentence aloud. Every action is shaped by repetition. This is not a display of raw talent. It is the outcome of a training philosophy rooted in the science of motor learning. In Delta Force, every round fired is a data point, another layer of myelin wrapped around neural pathways, making electrical signals travel faster and movements sharper. Operators run the same drills again and again, not to memorize a sequence, but to rewire the brain until the act of shooting becomes automatic. The aim is not just speed, but consistency under stress. The goal is to make the extraordinary routine, to eliminate the gap between perception and action. The numbers tell the story. Clearances under 5 seconds are not rare outliers. They are the standard by which performance is measured, a measure of consistency. Operators are expected to engage multiple targets with headshot accuracy in the time it takes for a stopwatch to blink from 4 to 5 seconds. The margin for error is razor thin. If a shot lands outside the designated zone, the drill is reset. If a transition lags, the operator repeats the sequence until the movement is as smooth as a reflex. Over time, this process strips away conscious thought. Shooting becomes a neurological reflex, triggered by pattern recognition and honed by repetition. Allied observers, whether SAS instructors or visiting special operations teams, often pause to watch these drills in silence. The speed is impressive, but it is the consistency that draws attention. Every operator, regardless of background, produces nearly identical results. The room is cleared, the targets drop, and the timer stops at a number that seems almost mechanical. The difference is not in the selection of personnel or the design of the drill. It is in the sheer volume of repetitions. Over a 10-year career, a Delta operator may fire more than 1 million rounds in training, each one another step toward making the extraordinary look easy. These drills are not about showmanship. They are about building a reflex that will hold under the most extreme pressure imaginable. In a real-world hostage rescue or counterterrorism mission, there is no time for calculation. There is only action, and that action must be perfect. A clearance under 5 seconds is not a party trick. It is the end state of a system designed to erase hesitation and make precision automatic. The result is a level of marksmanship that even the most experienced Allied units now study frame by frame, searching for the secret hidden in the rhythm of repetition. British instructors once watched Delta shooters move through a kill house and saw something they had not anticipated. Every operator, regardless of background, clearing rooms with a level of mechanical precision that seemed almost rehearsed. The SAS, long considered the masters of close quarters battle, found themselves pausing mid-drill to study the Americans' technique. One former SAS instructor, reflecting on those sessions, described the experience as both humbling and instructive. He noted, "We were looking for the tiny things, the way they gripped the pistol, how their eyes tracked targets, even how they shifted their weight between shots. It was not just speed, it was the absence of wasted movement." In response, SAS teams began to document these subtle differences. Training circulars were updated to reflect new grip angles and sight picture routines observed during joint sessions. Word spread through Hereford that the Americans' transitions between targets, how they moved from one threat to the next, were not just faster but smoother, almost as if the weapon was an extension of their vision. British troopers experimented with these tweaks back in their own kill house, seeking to close the gap not through raw volume, but through technique. But ammunition remained a limiting factor. Without the ability to match Delta's daily live fire tempo, the SAS turned to technology. The Ministry of Defense approved new contracts for advanced simulation systems, virtual ranges that allowed operators to run hundreds of room clearances without burning through precious rounds. These simulators, packed with motion sensors and digital scoring, became a staple of British close quarters battle training. Operators could rehearse complex scenarios, track their progress, and adopt the best of what they had seen in American drills. The exchange went both ways. Delta operators embedded with SAS squadrons learned lessons in adaptability and improvisation, while British teams absorbed the science of American marksmanship. The alliance became a feedback loop, each side borrowing what worked, discarding what did not, and quietly acknowledging that the pursuit of mastery is never finished. In the words of one SAS veteran, "We started as the teachers, but in the kill house, everyone's a student." Inside the world of special operations, numbers tell only part of the story. The scale of Delta Force's training investment, especially in ammunition, remains one of the most closely guarded secrets in the U.S. defense system. Official records break down at the water's edge. Ammunition budgets for units like Delta Force are classified, folded into black budgets, and aggregated under broad line items that reveal nothing about the true cost of mastery. Even the most persistent requests under the Freedom of Information Act return empty. The specifics, how many rounds, how much spent, how often, are considered operationally sensitive, with no public breakdown by unit or even by category. Defense budget analysts familiar with the contours of US and NATO spending can only offer estimates. They point to the scale of US Special Operations Command, which operates with an annual budget in the billions, and to Joint Special Operations Command's share of that pie, funds earmarked for the highest priority missions. When analysts model ammunition expenditure using available procurement data and operator testimony, the results are staggering. Delta's annual ammunition spend is estimated to rival or even exceed the total small arms budgets of several NATO allies combined. For context, the entire small arms expenditure for countries like Denmark or Norway may fall short of what a single American Special Mission Unit consumes in a year for training alone. Yet these calculations come with a warning label. Every figure is an estimate, grounded in indirect evidence and the accounts of former operators. There are no procurement logs, no declassified spreadsheets, no official confirmation. The reality is that the edge enjoyed by Delta Force is not a matter of myth, but of money spent in ways the public will never see, and that most allied militaries can only imagine. The advantage is real, but it remains, by design, impossible to quantify with certainty. The testimony of those who have lived it is the only window into a system built on secrecy and scale. Right now, the margin between elite units isn't written in genetics or tradition. It is measured in rounds fired and hours spent in the kill house. As defense budgets shift and technology evolves, the lesson is clear. Mastery favors those who can afford relentless repetition. In the end, the world's sharpest shooters are shaped by what their nations choose to invest. What would you prioritize? Let me know in the comments.